And one day I came across a sailor and he says, "Captain, we have a term to describe the organization on this ship." He said, "This ship is like a tree full of monkeys." He said, "You're the monkey at the top of the tree. On every branch there's different levels of monkeys, and we're the monkeys in the bottom branch." He said, "Whenever you look down from the top of the tree, all you ever see are smiling faces coming back at you. When we look up from the bottom branch, we have an entirely different view of the organization." And when that sailor said that to me, I started putting myself in their boots. I started viewing our operation through their eyes, trying to see what they were seeing. And when I did so, I realized I needed to do a better job of communicating to them, why we have high standards and why it's important we be the best each and every day. And I found that the more time I could spend communicating to them, getting them to understand that all of this is going to keep us safe in tough times, the better buy-in I got. I could literally start to see the course of the ship start to change. Leadership isn't about being liked. It's not about affection from our people. It's about staying safe in tough times and giving our people a vision as to why what they're doing is important and how they can make a difference. And that's what I decided I was going to focus on when I took command of the ship. As I told you, the ship wasn't doing well when I took command. One of the worst safety records, some of the lowest retention rates in the entire U.S. Navy. The quarter before I took command, our retention rate was 8%, meaning we were retaining 8% of the sailors eligible to re-enlist. And when you think of the military, you think, well, you can order your crew around. You know what? I can. But I can't order them to stay with us. And my crew are volunteers just like your crew are volunteers, just like your customers are volunteers. And I figured I had to give them a reason why they should want to stay with us. So I focused only on them and connecting with them and getting them to understand they have just as much at stake in the successful outcome here as I do. And what happened? They turned their own ship around. My last year in command, our retention rate was almost 100%. Also in my last year, we operated our ship on 75% of our operating budget, returning millions that I'd like to be able to report came back to you all, the U.S. taxpayers. But our reward for saving taxpayers millions was that our budget was cut 25% the following year. But in about 18 months, we go from being near the bottom to being awarded the Spokane Trophy. It was an award started in 1908 by President Theodore Roosevelt, given annually to the best ship in the Pacific Fleet. And in years 3 and 4 after I left the ship, USS Benfold won the award for best ship in the entire U.S. Navy. So I think what we're all doing in this room, we're all leaders, we're all captains of our own ship, and, we want to be around for the long term. And I found the only way we could, thrive in tough times is to get the crew to have a sense of urgency that we need to be the best at everything we do. After the Spokane Trophy was announced, I got an email from my admiral. He said, "Mike, congratulations on winning the Spokane Trophy," but he said, "Don't get too cocky and arrogant. When I had command of a ship in the Atlantic Fleet, my ship won the Battenberg Cup, which is the award for best ship in the Atlantic Fleet." And he said, "Oh, by the way, to this day, my ship still holds the Navy's record in gunnery of 103.6 out of a possible 105 points. He said, until you can beat my score in gunnery, I don't want to hear from you, and I don't want to hear from USS Benfold." Well, I never told the gunnery crew how to do it. I just taped that email to the gun mount. 3 weeks later, went out and shot gunnery, shot 104.4, which to this day is still a Navy record. And I let the gunnery crew write the email response back to the admiral. Thank you. Years ago, I had the great privilege of getting command of a destroyer in the Navy. And at the time, we weren't quite the worst ship in the Pacific Fleet, but we were probably third or fourth from the bottom. And as you guys know, I don't get to pick and choose my missions, and I don't get to pick and choose the people that are assigned to me. I have zero input into the budget that we're given to accomplish our mission. My opportunity was to engage my crew and to connect with them and get them to have a sense of urgency that there's so many things we don't get to control. Let's focus on the things that we can. I'm going to invest in you. I'm going to make sure you have the training so that you know how to be number one. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to connect with you. And I'm going to try to create a work environment where I would be proud to have my own family members come be a part. And by focusing on the one variable that I had the ability to influence, my crew turned their own ship around to become the best ship in the Navy. And for our efforts, we got featured in the Harvard Business Review and Fast Company magazine. And the reader response to these articles was so overwhelming, I was asked to speak at a business conference down in Naples. 1,000 business leaders from around the country were coming to this 2-day conference. And the problem was I had never spoken in public before. And I figured I'd be a breakout speaker speaking to 30 or 40 of the 1,000 people in attendance. And I got to Naples and looked at the program for the first time to discover that over the 2-day conference, there would be just 3 keynote speakers. The first one was the guy who founded Visa. The second one was a guy by the name of Tom Peters, who gets paid $100,000 a speech and has a private jet to take him there. And the third keynote speaker was the schmuck from the U.S. Navy, who paid his own way on Southwest Airlines to get there. And I was so nervous, I got no sleep the night before. I get up after Tom Peters, I'm nervous, I'm intimidated. And 20 seconds into my very first speech, there was a lady sitting directly in front of me, gets up and makes a very visible display of walking out on me. And sweat just started pouring off my face. I couldn't believe I'd be that lousy that soon, that people were already leaving. But I stumbled through the rest of the speech, and I met this lady at O'Hare Airport 4 months later. And she came up to me and said, you may not remember me, but I was the lady who got up and walked out on you at your first speech. And I said to her, lady, I'm never going to forget you. And she said, I need to tell you why I left. She says, I'm from Berkeley, California, and I hate the U.S. military. And she said, I didn't think there was anything I could possibly learn from anybody in your line of work, so I was going to go do voicemails and emails. She said, but by the time I got to the exit, I realized that I faced the same challenge that you face, that yeah, I can order my team to get a mission accomplished, but I can't order excellence. And the excellence only comes about when us leaders, us captains of our own ship, create and lead those engaged associates and connect with them so that they take just as much ownership of the business as we have for it. And she says, you don't know this, but by the time I got to the exit, I realized I wanted to listen to you. Turned around, took a seat in the back row. To this day, 8 years later, we've become best friends.